What is up, guys? It's Troy at the Full Setup here, back with another video for you. Now, one of the biggest selling points anyway, and I think especially over to the PC gamers of the new consoles, is the high refresh rate. So 120 frames per second, and just a slew of the other features that maybe we've taken for granted because we've had on the PC for a while. So I'm talking about like variable refresh rate, ray tracing, which I know we haven't had for too long, but hopefully now that it's on consoles we should see loads more ray tracing based titles, and I imagine at some point it's going to get AMD's version of DLSS. And those are just things that make the entire gameplay, just so much smoother, especially when we're talking about the 120Hz and the VRR, and then also auto low latency mode, which is a more of a console based thing than it's a PC thing. But I feel from all the videos and everything that I've been watching, everything is being saying about you need to buy a new TV, you need to be getting HDMI 2.1 to get the best out of your console. And I would totally agree. Okay, you need HDMI 2.1 to run 4K 120Hz. It also comes with a load of other extra features like being able to pass through some very high resolution audio like Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, True HD, all of that sort of stuff. For me, someone that's into home cinema gear, it's definitely something that I want to be making a move over to. But I feel like people are saying, you spend £250 to £500 on a console, you have to be going to spending over £1,000 on a TV. Because especially in the UK, there isn't a lot of HDMI 2.1 TVs. You're pretty much limited to LG. You can get a couple of nanocell models under 1,000, and then you're looking at their OLEDs, and they are fantastic TVs. But I feel like, you're buying this console for £500, which they're saying is to buy a PC, it would almost cost you twice the price, but then you've got to buy a £1,500 monitor TV to be able to use these features. And to me, the 120Hz is the more important thing out of anything, especially if you play first person shooters, driving games, high action games. But the reason I wanted to make this video is to show you that you actually don't need HDMI 2.1 to enjoy high refresh rate gaming on the new consoles, especially on the Xbox Series S and X, because the PlayStation 4 doesn't support 1440p. Because you've been able to run 120Hz on HDMI 1.4, and you've been able to run it on HDMI 2.0 as well if you want to go all the way up to 2K. So obviously you're not having that 4K pinnacle graphics quality, but if you were someone that's maybe bought a 4K TV within the last 18 months and you don't actually want to sell it and upgrade, maybe you've got a gaming room and you don't mind having a second screen, or if you're just a PC gamer anyway and you're looking for a new monitor that can take advantage of everything that your PC can do and what your consoles can do, monitors are definitely the way to go. So I've been doing my testing on two monitors over the last few days. There's my 240Hz ATIA monitor behind me here, and then there is this new monitor that we bought for Oscar. So Oscar's did the unboxing, go and check it out, 7-year-old first YouTube video on the channel, so go and show him some support. This is his new monitor that he's got. He doesn't know he's got the Series S for Christmas. Now I was considering getting him the X at £450 because that was the total cost of this, and then giving him my 4K monitor and upgrading to a more color accurate 4K monitor. But again, I didn't want him on 60Hz. I want him to be able to enjoy fast-paced games at 120 frames per second. That's what we've had. That's what we've had on the PC for years, boys, and it's time for the console people to have it. Now, after watching this video, if you are thinking of using a PC monitor with your new Xbox, there are a few things that you need to consider first. It's not as simple as just, going online, picking a monitor straight away without doing any research. You need to do a little bit of prereq. You need to do a bit of research, all right, beforehand. So the first thing is that you want to go and do is take yourself over to AMD's website, because they have a full FreeSync monitor list of all the monitors that they've had verified, okay? Because not all monitors support FreeSync over HDMI, and not all high refresh rate monitors support the higher refresh rates over HDMI as well. But most modern ones do, as you'll see once you go on the website. Pretty much anything modern, but if you've got a FreeSync monitor from maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that's where you'd possibly struggle. The other thing as well, and I can't stress this one more than enough before any of you ask me in the comment section, it will not work, okay? You can't use connectors, you can't use adapters, you can't use little plugs, all of that sort of gubbins to take one connection to another. You can't do it. You can't do HDMI to DisplayPort. It has to be straight pure HDMI connection. The other thing as well to consider is that HDMI 1.4 can only support 1080p up to 144Hz, so you'd be good here, but it doesn't support it up at 2K. It only goes up to 75Hz. So if you're buying a 1440p monitor, it has to have HDMI 2.0. That one takes you up to 144Hz. What else? Another thing as well, knowing your screen tech. I'm not going to go into this too much. The panel behind me here is a TN. As we know, TN panels have been able to do 1 millisecond blistering fast speeds for a long time. Now, a lot of VA panels and IPS panels, especially down at the lower end, under £350, have been listed as 1 millisecond for the past year or so. Although they can sort of do it, it does end up that you have to turn like sort of extreme overdrives on, MPRT, ultra low motion blur. Basically, when you turn most of those things on, it disables FreeSync on the monitor as well. So that's one thing that you need to consider before you do all of that. Is there anything else? No. But like I said, use that link, check that out. That will get you to where you need to be. So my monitor testing then. Well, I first tested it with the 240Hz ASIA monitor behind me here. There's a model number written down. I couldn't really find a lot of information on it when I bought the monitor. I got it for £150, so I got an absolute bargain on it. But there is some oddities with that monitor, and I want to cover that today, just in case any of you come across this. And there'll probably be some B-roll showing it. So when you plug in this monitor, the 240Hz one, the computer, even my computer, sees it as a 4K panel, even though it's not. So it will select a 4K signal, okay? So you can get a 4K signal coming into it, but it's not displaying a 4K image. And the same thing happened when I plugged it into the Xbox. So when I plugged it into the Xbox, it thought it was a 4K panel, okay? So I could set variable refresh rate on it, but when I switched the resolution back to 1080p, it wouldn't let me set the refresh rate. So then what I had to do is go into HDMI settings. I had to force the HDMI, to force it to select HDMI, which allowed me to select 120Hz, but it didn't allow me to put variable refresh rate on. But if I had the option between it, if I was going to have the high refresh rate at 120Hz, or if I was going to have 60Hz with FreeSync, when we know this machine can output 1080p 60 no problem, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go with the 120Hz. So which moves me over to this screen then. So this is a screen that I bought for Oscar. This is the, let me try and read it off there. It's the MSI MAG272C. This is a full HD monitor. It clocks up to 165 Hz. It is using a VA panel, which isn't my personal preference. Out of the three, VA is the one I'm not massively into, but I'd sort of let him have a choice. I said, would you like this, the curved one, or the non-curved IPS? I was hoping he was going to go with the IPS, but he decided the curved one. And also the IPS only had HDMI 1.4 as well. And I was a bit concerned of, can I get FreeSync and 120Hz? It's because I'm having to say it so many times. Could I get them working at the same time together? And from looking over on AMD's website, as I mentioned a couple of times, it appears that you can get it working. I was just a little bit concerned. And another good thing as well, even if you find it a bit hard finding what you need on the website link, is that MSI actually list all of the refresh rates for HDMI and DisplayPort. So they list on their product specifications what it can go up to. It's also got HDR as well. Didn't really mention that, but HDR is probably not going to work. It's just a limitation to HDMI 2.0. Generally, when you start pushing FreeSync, 120Hz, and then some HDR, one of them's got to go. It's always just like one of them, it doesn't want to run. So generally HDR would go. And on any cheaper monitor anyway, it's like it can accept a HDR signal, but HDR looks pretty crap. So it's not really worth doing. Anything else that's good to feature about it? Yeah, it's just got loads of nice stuff actually on this monitor. It's got USB-C, USB hub, 2 HDMIs, DisplayPort. He likes it. It's got a little cheek crosshair that we can turn on as well. So yeah, he's very much like this monitor. It's got a little headset stand that comes out of the side. Now Asus actually do a model that's VA that they claim to be 1 millisecond for about the same price as this, but the issue with that is it only has one HDMI and one VGA, and I just can't recommend that. It's not enough inputs. To only have one digital input is not good enough. But this monitor was £210. It's supposed to be close to 300, but it's one of the models that will be on sale quite a lot towards the end of the year. So how did I get on with it then? Super pretty easy, boys. Super bloody easy. Let's go into TV and display options. 1080p, 120Hz. You can also go to 4K TV details here, where it shows you everything that you can do. It says HDR for games and apps is turned off. Back up and select video modes and allow HDR10. So I turn that one on, but it hasn't seemed HDR-y to me. It does get a little bit brighter. You allow 50Hz as well, which is good for 50Hz stuff. Doesn't allow 24Hz though, which is a bit annoying when I shoot my videos at 24 frames per second. So it would have been nice to send that there. And then the most important one, allow variable refresh rate. And it's that easy. But like I said, if you don't have the option here for 120 Hz, you just go over to video fidelity, go to your overrides here and switch that to HDMI. That will give you 120 Hz, but you'll lose variable refresh rate, but I'd pick that. So now the only thing is waiting for more games to support it. Now I did test out a little bit of Gears 5 last night, which has 120 FPS already set up for it, and it was massive improvement. It felt like an absolutely massive improvement, and that's to someone that is actually used to gaming on higher refresh rate. I didn't think I would notice it too much with the controller. I always feel like, I've always said that if I'm playing with a controller, I'm sort of happy with 60 FPS anyway. It doesn't bother me too much because of the input lag, but I feel I was a little bit wrong there, and it is definitely noticeable. And I do think that more and more games are going to be supporting it. I always said that whether it was going to be 1080p or 1440p at 120 on the cheaper console, or 4K at 120, it's going to be a little bit like the PC, that a couple of settings will be turned down. It'll almost be like a performance mode. But I just have this big feeling now that if AMD are bringing out their own version of DLSS, there's going to be a lot of games that support this. I feel there are going to be a lot of games that support this, and if you are someone, like I said earlier, that's already bought a 4K TV within the last 18 months, or if you just can't afford to get the HDMI 2.1 monitors, because I'm sure within a year's time there's going to be loads on the market. As soon as cheaper brands start releasing a load, we know that TCL have announced some, maybe get Hisense on there as well. As soon as the cheaper brands start enabling it, then Samsung and LG and everyone else are going to follow suit, but we just need the price to come down. And there's also been some little glitches with it as well. There's been some firmware updates, AV receivers are kicking out black screens at 120 Hz. It's new technology, it's a lot of bandwidth, and it ain't running super well yet. But I'll tell you what is running super well, this 1080p monitor for £200, 120 Hz, variable refresh rate, little console here. I'm telling you, you couldn't build a PC that can do this for that price. It's good, it's definitely good, and I would recommend it with the Series X as well, but I would probably go for a 2K monitor, which again will only set you back between £300 and £350, which will keep the price down if you're saving up for a HDMI 2.1 TV at a later date. Anyway, I just feel I'm waffling, but I wanted to show you that there. You know, it's not all about 4K 120. You can enjoy these great features on tech that's actually been around for a few years.